Thank you so much, Karen. Shall I begin?
Yes, whenever you
All
want.
right. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's an incredible opportunity for me to be here at this level and talking about one of my very favorite subject, and that is educational technology. For the participants, there is only one person who is a dear friend of mine who's joining me. He knows me, but thank you so much, Umar, for joining. Uh, it's really great to have you. But the rest of the people, my name is Danish Sayani. I reside in Pakistan, and I am a co-founder and a director, education technology at the Institute of Excellence in Learning and Teaching. I'm an author of 3 books. Those were not edtech included; those were just fiction books because I'm a passionate author. And that my career began something around 6 to 7 years ago when I stepped into the field of education. And after working with many startups, I started my own startup in Pakistan and worked with schools around within the boundaries of Pakistan, and I got to know something very different and some very unique perspectives on the educational technology. And I would like to share those experiences with you and connect my presentation with it because it's all about experiences, what you do and what you learn, and then how you perceive those learnings, and then how you convey those learnings to your fellow educators. And that experience is one of the most remarkable things that you can have. And that is the learning that I got after being involved in this part of journey. So without further ado, I'll start with my experience and then I'll just jump right into the uh, presentation. All right, but I'll share the screen so that you know the topic, what the topic would be. All right. So I hope that you guys are all seeing my screen sharing presentation. The topic is EdTech for schools. Now, the reason that I particularly chose this chapter is because that I'm completely, connected with schools. I have worked with universities, but on the entrepreneurial level, but not the ed tech level. So my complete focus was with schools in my as a representative of my company. So that's why my topic was ed tech for schools. And uh, when you talk about edtech in Pakistan, especially, teachers are not much comfortable with the technology part because here technology is something to be feared. Uh, it has something to be, very much fear about it rather than accepting it as a challenge and then continuing with it. But now people are adapting to it because of the corona pandemic. But before that, it was very difficult for us, the advocates of educational texts, to make schools understand that how important it is to be in the 21st century and then work in the 21st century by adapting the skills of 21st century. We talk about creativity, critical thinking, communication, collaboration. We talk about these 4 skills so much, but we rather use it in terms of tech. Now, when it comes to technology, uh, it's not just about using computer. It's not just about using a laptop or a mobile phone or a tablet, but it's about implementing those very particular thing into your schooling environment or in your classrooms. That's what educational technology is. It's not just about using the technology, it's about implementing that technology in your schooling curriculum or your syllabus. Okay, that's why it phrased as educational technology. So taking technology, okay, when you talk about technology, the very first thing that pops into your mind is the mobile phone and the computer, and then comes the reaction of teachers and parents that no, my student will be using Facebook and Instagram, and they won't be focused on the education itself. So the reaction comes when they heard about technology. So this is the reaction that we received from them, and then it was our job to to answer those reactions more profoundly and then connect that education with the technology. And when we did connect the education with the technology, so the so what we analyzed and what we received was very remarkable, because then teachers started to understand what basically what it means to be using educational technology. When we talk about applications like Padlet or Wakelet, or there are Coggle, sorry, there are OneNote, Microsoft Word. So these are all applications that are giving you an opportunity to ease your life, okay, to ease your life, and also to ease your learning and teaching methodologies. All right, we started with the a classroom teaching, where we use the whiteboard or a blackboard, and then we write all the information on it, and then what students did was copied all that information, and then what they did, they wrote learned it. Okay, then we progressed from it, and then we started adapting many creative ways to teach and learn. And one of the creative ways of teaching and learning is adapting educational technology. So this is something, a brief overview of what I have seen and what I have experienced in my country. So that's why I found myself to be a very a better advocate. I won't say perfect, but a better advocate of how educational technology is being used and referred to in the schooling environment. All right, I'll move on with my presentation. Okay, so basically our presentation is focused on 3 points. Okay, you can say it's a questions, I would say it's a point. My talk focuses on the beginning of EdTech, how it basically started, and then revolutionized the whole world, and how educators approach EdTech. Okay, one of the main concerns, I've already told you that what I received in my home country, but everywhere there is different reactions. But overall, there might be some similarities to all of our working and understanding in the methodologies of EdTech. And then the third is how and why EdTech is the thing for 21st century schooling. How and why EdTech is the thing for 21st century schooling. We'll talk about it in a more in-depth way as we progress with our presentation. So let's move on to the next slide. All right. I've already told you about me, but it was something my partner, included in this. The whole abstract and the whole idea behind this, this presentation and this abstract was from my partner. And the complete thing is her brainchild, basically. I write, but there are some common educational point of views that she knows better than me, because she is an AMPhil in education. So her expertise has been a major breakthrough when we say that we have successfully implemented educational technology in a lot of schools in Pakistan. So let's move on. The beginning of EdTech. All right, we'll go back centuries back, and we'll start with the very first thing that we designed as human, from caves to online schooling. First evidence of EdTech, cavemen using tools to carve paintings on walls. Now you would say that how EdTech integrated into the cave men using tools. But now I'm going to ask you to separate the EdTech word. Let's take education. What is education? Receiving and transferring of knowledge or an information. All right. And what is technology? Implementing or practically designing those same scientific information into a practical approach. That is a technology. I'm not talking about digital technology right now. I'm just talking about technology right now. So what the cavemen did, they had information, they had knowledge. What knowledge they had? They had historical knowledge. What we learned from the cave paintings, that's how we know about the languages and the cultures which have been diminished before us. The cuneiform way of writing, okay, the Greek culture, the Roman cultures. We got to know about these cultures how? By reading history, and how we came about with the history by knowing what they did. So that's how cavemen gave their knowledge through the means of tools. They designed the tools like hammer or different sort of tools to carve on the wall so that they can draw or they can paint something so that they can transfer their knowledge. So the very first technology that they created were the tools through which they carve those walls, they carve those areas to design a painting so that they can transfer their knowledge, that what they have gone through, what they have learned, and they design those walls with their painting so that the generation after that understand that what they have been through. So that is the very first form of technology. Technology is innovation, and that's how they innovated. They innovated. They created things, and through and the by the means of creating things, they provide us the education that we had no way of receiving if they haven't made those paintings. We had no way of understanding what the history would be if those cavemen haven't designed their paintings into the cave walls. Let's go to the point number two. Second prominent evidence. Okay, that the first one was, I would say, the hypothetical situation. The second was the prominent evidence of education, ed tech, emergence of training films during World War II. During the World War II, and it's a research base that during the World War II, there have been training, video trainings being given, being showing to the soldiers so that they understand the tactics and the strategies, that how the war's been, fought, how the things go around, and how you strategically design and plan your movements in order to win the war. So that those training films being shown to the soldiers so that they understand what it means to be a soldier. And using of multimedia in terms of training, that was the second prominent evidence of using the educational technology. Right now in our class we show different videos. Even in my training, I use YouTube, I use different form of video based learning so that the students or the educators will get the gist of what I'm trying to tell them in a very entertainment way. Okay, something I blab on and on about, it can be a very boring. It can be very boring. Okay, but the same thing, if I show it in with a sort of animation or with a sort of music and dialogues, then it will be very entertainment for the learners to learn that thing instantly. So that was the second prominent evidence of using educational technology in the emergence of training films during war. Then the third revolution involving ad tech, and that is just the recent thing that we have gone through, the whole world has gone through, and that is the COVID-19 teaching and learning. In this period of time, even those schools and educators who were not very much favoring the idea of introducing educational technology into their environment had to go through this situation, had to do it. They started using Google Classroom, they started using Microsoft Classroom, Microsoft Teams, sorry. They adapted the Moodle. Okay, they have, and they started understanding the idea of using Android phones and iOS phone and Windows phone, not just for the sake of Facebook and Instagram, but also there are many applications that will help you and your students understand the very concept of learning and teaching. So that was the revolutionary thing that happened. I have no idea about the world that it was a revolutionary step as being in the edtech field, but I know in my country it was a revolutionary step that when since the COVID-19, educational technology in my country has been on a rise. I mean, there have been many schools who have been asking us to, design them an LMS, learning management system, or help them out with the training, how to use Zoom, how to take classes on Zoom, how to understand Microsoft Teams, how to use Google Classroom, how to use different applications to connect them with their curriculum. Okay, because it's not just about using application; it's about integrating those applications in your curriculum. Okay, you can use any app, it's very easy to use app, but it's very difficult to integrate those apps in your curriculum. And from there you need to know the you need to have an understanding of educational technology, and you can only get those understanding when you are trained for it. Okay, so what we did in this COVID-19 is we train teachers online, because of course we have to. And this was a revolutionary step in our country, and I believe many countries, that the complete shift from face-to-face learning to online schooling. All right. Number 2, how educators approach edtech. So I've already been telling you that how educators in my country have approached educational technology. Okay, the very first thing was skepticism. Okay, they were very skeptical about it. So it's not. I don't think that it's appropriate for a student to understand learning with technology. How is that possible? Skepticism. The second part, the second badge, you can say, of the educator were the confused one. They were confused. How is it going to happen? Okay, do we have to learn something new, or can we do it in our mobile phones, or can we do it on the laptop? How are we going to connect our laptop? I mean, some technical confusions and some educational confusions, but there were confusions among the educators that how to go about with the educational technology. All right. Then reluctance. Reluctance comes when you know that it is necessary, and when you know that it's very important, but still you are not going for it. There comes reluctance. Okay, so there were schools who knew that it's very necessary. There were educators who understood that it's very important, but still they were reluctant because extra, you can say, there are no shortcuts. You have to go highway. So, but when taking those long steps, then comes the ease of access that you get from the educational technology. But the first step is always the hardest one, and there we have many rejections. And there were some people who were very excited, like the school. I won't be able to say the name of the school, but there was this school. It's a very traditional school in our country, a very traditional school in our country, but and they were so much accepted and excited towards it that I when I was giving them training, and when I was completely when I and my partner were designing the curriculum, and completely the change making changes in their technologies, and giving them training, we were fascinated by how teachers were cooperating with us, and how they are excited to learn more and more. And with excitement comes acceptance, right? When you are excited about something, when you are curious about something, you accept it, because in your mind you know that this is something that is going to take me a long way into the future. This will give me a great benefit in my career, and this will be a great tool for my students, so I should accept it. That is brain telling you to accept it. That's why it becomes curious, it becomes excited. So these were the categories of teachers that I have faced. Like I told you in the start, that I'll be sharing my experiences with the presentation, so that you will get to know the idea that how it actually happened. Real life experiences are really necessary in education, so that you understand what the real world applications are. And when you are using educational technologies, you are implementing real world applications. Okay, you are implementing real world applications. So you need to tell your students, you need to teach your class in a way that you give real world experiences, real world applications, so that students can take up the challenge that how the world is outside of their classroom. That's why we talk about beyond the classroom. What is beyond the classroom? It's not about outside the classroom. No. Beyond the classroom means that even within the boundaries of your school, you explore things, that are are not available here right now in front of you. But by the means of educational technology, you can explore the world right here in your classroom. How? You must have heard about the Skype live tours, right? Skype tours. You have heard about the Google art and culture. Then there is a Google Earth application which actually gives you the live tours. So with these applications, there is also another website, Nat Geo Adventures, that also helps you out in actual real world tours and everything right here in your classroom. You can make history lively, make geography lively. How? With the use of educational technology. That's how the school should operate right now. The very first thing that I told you why I chose this topic, why? Because it is about schools, and I've worked with schools uh, so extensively that I know the ins and outs, that what they've been thinking, how they go about it, what are their reactions, and I've been telling them the same thing, that the very first thing that I'm going to talk about is the for students, for our students here, the boring subjects are history and geography. Yeah, it's very dry, and how to make it lively with the help of educational technology. All right. Uh, okay. Drivers of EdTech philosophy. There's a circle that you might be seeing. Uh, it's not a, confirmed state. Okay, the role changes, but it's a never-ending circle. They all three need each other, and sometimes the pedagogical tactics can come first and approaches can come second, or the pedagogical strategies can come first, but they all are working together side by side. And when it comes to educational technology, they are extremely important. They will be very much understood by the curriculum developers, because there are strategies and tactics that only curriculum specialists have learned and understood. But beyond that, even if you are an educator, you must know about these things, and they are very important when you are talking about educational technology in schools. Because when in school, there is a very dangerous word, and that is curriculum. And curriculum is very dangerous. And I'm just kidding. Okay, it's not really dangerous. It's just complicated, and you have to go about it in such a way that students and teachers and everyone can make a connection with it. Okay. The previous slides that I've told you about, from starting with the cave painting, then the World War, and then the COVID-19 experience, there is the historical example just came to my mind. And there are two great philosophers. I talk about them all the time, even when I'm taking a writing session or a edtech session or a STEM session. I talk about these two figures because they have they have done so much wonders that they can fit into any example. Plato and Aristotle. Okay, so let me give you another example of how the educational technology works. When we talk about education, I told you it's a gaining and receiving and giving information, knowledge, and technology is using those technology and make a practical approach of it. So when we talk about Plato, he was a theoretical philosopher. Okay, he was the uh, philosopher of imagination, and he used to imagine things. He used to write theories. He used to work on Socrates philosophies, and then transfer those philosophies in a theoretical way to his students. And Aristotle, his student, was sort of in a more interested in a practical approach. So whatever Plato did, he used those information and turned it into a practical approach. He combined those knowledge. He connected all those knowledge and create a practical approach of it. That is another example of how educational technology works. It's not just about computer. It's not just about phones and tablets and applications. It's way beyond that. When I'm talking about digital technology, then you can talk about applications and mobile phones and tablet and all that. And taking taking them toward the schooling system, what is lacking over here is another 2 points. But I'm going to talk about those 2 points after telling you about the drivers of edtech philosophy, because these three drivers will connect towards those 2 points that I'm going to talk about. Okay, so let's talk about pedagogical approach, tactics, and strategies. I'll start with tactics. What are tactics? Uh, let's say you have a subject, okay, science or a maths. Now you have a tool, and that is your book, textbook. But when you use a textbook, it takes you back towards the traditional environment. You want to innovate it. You want to connect educational technology. And what you do, you use the help of applications. There are many applications in the Google Play or the App Store or the Windows Store that will help you teach science and maths, both. Okay, so you selected those applications. Okay, you narrowed down those particular applications that will help you out in teaching and learning science and maths. Okay, that was pedagogical tactic, that you use a tactic in the name of applications that you are that from which you are going to teach science and maths. Now, what is pedagogical approach? It's the how of using those tactics, how you are going to approach it. Okay, I know what the application is, I know what my content is, but how I'm going to connect it together, how I'm going to, like I said, using technology is easy, but integrated with the curriculum, that is the difficult part. And that is what these three circle is telling you, basically teaching you. The first one is the tactic part. Okay, tactic is telling you what application is necessary in this particular subject. The pedagogical approach is teaching you or telling you or instructing you that how you are going to go about it, how you're going to implement that very basic application in your curriculum or in your textbook. Okay, that is pedagogical approach. Now, what is pedagogical strategies? Pedagogical strategies in a very it's basically divided into certain parts like constructivism, socio-constructivism, and situated learning. And all in all, these uh, these things basically tell you, they basically overlap, and these theories explain these theories explain how people learn and how one could bring people to learn. Basically, what they tell you is whatever tactics you have identified and whatever approach you are going to use in this particular application, okay, how you are going to connect it with your curriculum. Okay, the first one is what are those applications. The second one is how how you are going to go about it. Okay, how you are going to use those applications. The third one is why you are going to do it, why you need to learn that thing, why there is a need of learning, and how people will connect it together in the syllabus or in the curriculum. This is a very deep learning. This is something this needs to understand in a very in-depth level. And unfortunately, I don't have much time to provide you a very bigger picture of it. But what I'm going to tell you is that whenever you are going about in educational technology, and when you are trying to bring educational technology in your school, please keep these three things in your mind. Okay, the pedagogical tactic, the pedagogical approach, and the pedagogical strategies. These three things are very necessary, because whatever technology or application or infrastructure that you are going to change and use in your school has to connect it with your curriculum. And these three things will help you connect those very things in your curriculum. and then the school will be very much accepted towards your new methodologies. All right. And don't worry if you feel like that I'm going very fast, or there are some things that you are not able to understand. There will be a Q&A session, so you can ask those questions to me then. All right, the third part, how and why EdTech is the thing for 21st century schooling. How and why EdTech is the thing for 21st century schooling. Basically, from since the beginning of our slide, I have been doing what I'm doing is advocacy of educational technology, basically, and I'm not doing just today or tonight. I've been doing it for the past 5 years, telling schools and everyone why EdTech is necessary or how we should go about it. And when we talk about 21st century, if there are educators over here, and I must say there must be educators over here, then you know how important 21st century skills are. Few of the 21st century skills I've named them: creativity, critical thinking, communication, collaboration. But beyond these skills, there are many more skills. Media literacy. Okay, these are sort of skills that you can understand better when you incorporate educational technology, because there are many things that are now being designed in a way that it needs the help of technology. Okay, if you want to create collaboration between your students, okay, if you want to collaborate them in some sort of a group work, what will you do? You will assign them in a group. Okay, within the class they've done it, they did what you asked them, they collaborated, they come up with the ideas, but there is a very limited time in the classroom that the students can collaborate with each other. Then they go home, what will they do now? What will they use? Phone? Again, that's a technology. Will they use chatting? WhatsApp? That's a technology. Will they use Facebook? Again, that's a technology. So you cannot remove people from technology. You will have to coexist with the technology. So if you have to coexist with the technology, then why not connect the technology with the education itself? Okay, then you can teach your students in a much and more elaborative way that how you can use educational technology when you are not together. When I'm assigning you a group work and you have to do that at home, like the very basic application name I will give you, which creates a perfect collaboration within the university students also, and that was Padlet. Within Padlet, I've managed to connect 30 students together to collaborate on one single project. And they were all at the same time in the panel working with me at their homes. And I could see their work live. Whatever the thing they wrote, I could see them. Whatever the mistakes they did, I could see them. And when they did any sort of mistakes, all I have to do is write it on the chat. That is it, either in a personal chat or in a public chat. So that is one example of how the collaboration works in the educational technology. Okay, so here I would like to add two more things. One is the digital literacy, and second is the digital citizenship. So whenever we talk about the how and why of EdTech, we need to understand there are two things that connects with the EdTech, and that is digital citizenship and digital literacy. Before moving towards digital literacy, there are many schools and many educators which make the mistakes of jumping right towards digital literacy, and that is not a logical way of going towards educational technology. No, you need to understand digital citizenship first. You need to make your student aware of the online privacy and online communication system, how to make passwords, how to secure yourself, how to avoid scams and phishing and all of that. Okay, so that whole thing is connects you with digital citizenship. Okay, if there are any parents, whenever your child go out of your house, okay, for anything, you make them aware that don't talk to strangers, okay, don't be a law abiding citizen, okay, and don't break any sort of laws or don't break any sort of disciplines, okay. That is how you live in the world, that is how you become a model citizen of the world. And this is the same thing applies in the internet, that is a digital world. You have to be a civilized and model citizen of the digital world also, and you have to abide all those rules, okay, you have to abide by all those rules that the internet provides, and you have to avoid all those discriminations or bullying, cyberbullying, and hacking and phishing. These are sort of things that your students, us, everyone faces every single day. That's why whenever we install a Windows, we have to install an antivirus software. Why? That's so that we are protected with any sort of hacking. Okay, so this, all these things are in digital citizenship. So before you talk about educational technology, before you talk about digital literacy and adapting digital literacy and incorporating it with your schooling life, you must and should prepare your student with the digital citizenship. That is a very that is the first priority of using educational technology in a schooling environment. And after that, once you are done with the digital citizenship, and there are courses, there are games, and there are many resources available over on the internet, and you can find all of that. Okay, some are paid, some are free, so you can find those things very easily. And once you are done with that, then you can go towards the digital literacy. And digital literacy is all about using and incorporating applications and technology and softwares into your very daily life. Okay, and when you can incorporate in your daily life, then you can incorporate it with the education system also. All we have to do is be willing enough to make that change. That is it. That's all we can do. So the big concept, and that is basically all of those things are the big concept, but also EdTech gives the unique opportunity to develop skills. How? Okay, this is the question that I'm going to answer. The next slide, there will be another question which you guys are going to answer. All right. So EdTech gives the unique opportunity to develop skills. We all are, every day whenever we open our mobile phones, we see new information. Okay, either we get it from Facebook, social media, or we get it from YouTube video tools, or we get it from Google or any informative news website. We get information. Okay, the very first thing that we are receiving is information, amounts and amounts of information. I'm not talking about the relevancy of those information, but I'm just talking about information. Okay, and when it is relevant enough to connect it with your field, like a techie person like myself will subscribe to those things, okay, that gives me relevant technology information. Okay, so this is giving me a skill to understand that what new things are being emerging in the market and what new innovations are being are discovered every day. Second, when we come to personal skills, okay, when we talk about professional skills, educational technology is like I told you about practical approach. First, we used to just give our students theoretical knowledge, and with theoretical knowledge, they were very much efficient enough to learn the whole book, but they were never able to implement that book in their real life. But now what we are doing, we are giving them professional skills. We are teaching them how to design a presentation, how to learn a programming language. Okay, there are many students right now learning programming languages. In an article or somewhere I read that if Google and Apple, they are now talking about hiring those students who have these developed skills. They have a command on programming languages, and they mentioned those specific languages. But what I'm trying to say here is that those skills Okay, those professional skills that before 20 years ago or 10 years ago, those schools weren't efficient enough to teach those knowledge. Okay, why? Because they were reluctant enough to avoid educational technology. But now that we have adapt that thing, now the schools are providing extracurricular classes. They are now teaching students uh, mechanical, how to repair a car, how to repair any technological equipment, how to learn a programming language. So these are some sort of skills that will, there are a lot more skills, but I'm keeping it very short. So these are some sort of skills that will help you, gain a momentum in the world and will give you an edge, so that when you go to an interview, when your students go to an interview or somewhere, so they don't have just the academic qualification, they have all these professional development skills qualification. So both of these things are very much necessary in today's world, in the 21st century that we talk about. And educational technology is the flagship of all those things. So now the why, let's discuss that. Thus here ends my presentation. I hope I didn't take more than 40 minutes. So I kept my presentation around 40 minutes, but when it's the problem with the trainer. When he starts speaking, then there is no end to it. That is both the blessing and the curse. So, well, my presentation ends here. Karen, you can take the floor now. We can discuss.
Hi, Danish. Thank you so much. It was really interesting to hear more in detail, and also just very surprising to know that we have been using technology in education for much longer than most of us think. So we have a bunch of questions from the audience, and I think we should
Sure.
to them so we can answer as many as possible. Just looking at the chat, first of all, we have a question from Vlado, and he asks, what do you believe the long-term trajectory for EdTech is, and what its timeline is for full implementation across educational systems?
When we talk about long-term trajectory, so we have now established ourselves enough to jump into the AI. Now there are many AI applications being used in many of our industries. Okay, and fortunately, it's also being used in the education system. So there, undoubtedly, I would say that I can see a future beyond my own imagination. There is no depth to that future where technology will be on the huge rise. Okay, and completely accepting educators towards technology, that is a still kind of a troublesome part for most of the countries. But I think that this COVID-19 has taught us a lot of things. And I believe that what the new normal would be for everyone, and I'm not going to talk about everyone here because I'm not an expert towards that, but what I know is that in the education system, the new normal would be using of technology appropriately, more positively, and more innovatively within our curriculum. And once we started doing that, then there is no going back, because the schools will finally understand that how much easy and innovative and creative their work has become. And when they will see their students excelling towards it, then of course no school would go back. So I believe we just have to be a bit patient, and I really positively believe that we are going towards the right direction.
So I guess that ties into another question that we have about the role of technology once school goes, quote unquote, back to normal, right? So how do you see like the blend between these tools inside the classroom rather than, as you said before, just at home?
What we need to understand is, actually we humans are very extremists. we do things much more extreme way rather than in a more idealistic or realistic way. Why I said extreme, that we choose one thing and then we start doing that and we don't back off until and unless we saw some sort of difficulties arising. First, we choose the classroom approach and we kept on using that. Okay, we sat on the classroom and we taught students in the classroom within those four walls, not outside of it. Okay, not virtually, but just within those four walls. That was what classroom was up until now. That when the COVID occurs and when we have to switch our classroom into online classrooms, and then we got the idea that no, the classroom can exist outside of classroom. Okay, classroom can exist outside of the classroom. But how they understood that idea? Not by my advocacy, not yours advocacy. No, they understood those idea by getting into a difficulty when they had no choice and they had to do it. So that's the problem. We are very extremist. So now when we immersed ourselves into the online thing, now we are completely focusing on the online part. Now we are completely towards online. No, we have to blend it together. That's where the blended learning comes from. We have to keep 50% face to face, we have to keep the 50% online, and then we have to connect them together. That's how you will that's how you coexist. Okay, you cannot just do one thing 100%. You have to balance it. Okay, so before that, that was 100% classroom. Now it was 100% online. Now we have to make a shift, and we have to realize that we have to keep the 50% classroom and keep 50% online, and together the terminology is blended learning.
Right, and that way you can take the best thing out of each one.
Exactly.
Sounds about right. So I guess kind of tying this into the regional context, like we have a question from Omar who asks, how can government schools in Pakistan adapt EdTech in their curriculum and make it a norm in promoting education? So specifically government schools.
I believe the very first thing that government schools need is the proper infrastructure of technologies, because without you can have those technologies in the school, but it's not about having those technology in the school. It's about having those same technology at home so that you can connect those things together. So the very first step is acquiring the piece of technology, and then the second step would be integrating that piece of technology, and the third step would be learning that piece of technology. So that's a whole step, and we have to go step by step. We cannot just jump that no, we just bought the technology, now we are going to learn about it. No, we have to first acquire the technology, then we have to integrate that technology, then we have to learn that technology. So that's a whole step, and we have to go step by step towards it. And when we talk about a third world countries, then I know it's very difficult and the funding and all that, but we have to start somewhere. So this is something that it's beyond my control also.
Right. No, definitely. But it's always interesting to hear because different countries have struggled in different ways
Exactly.
with technology. So I think it's been a very enlightening moment. It has highlighted the different problems in each place.
Exactly.
So we have one more question about Pakistan actually, and it comes from Mark Williams, and he asks, he says, you mentioned that Pakistan is accelerating its adoption of EdTech. But realistically, does a UK EdTech business have a good opportunity to be successful in Pakistan? And what would be the challenges in trying to develop in Pakistan as a UK EdTech business?
I humbly apologize, Karen. Can you repeat the question?
Yes, of course. So he asks whether UK EdTech businesses would have a good opportunity to be successful in Pakistan, and what would be the challenges in trying to develop as a UK EdTech business in Pakistan?
The first thing is that if you are a huge empire and you want to work with the government, then I believe that you will find a lot of problems in terms of, I'm not just going to talk about as an educator, but also as an entrepreneur, because you're talking about business now. So uh, financially you will suffer, okay, because there are many companies like Microsoft who are providing their things and programs completely free of cost. Like Microsoft, Bill Gates has provided Microsoft Teams completely free for the government schools and colleges. Okay, so when we talk about doing business with the government in countries like Pakistan, so there are many donative work has been done by mega corporations. But if you are talking about private sectors, if you are connecting yourself with the private schools and everyone, then you have some luck. Okay, I'm not going to say that you're going to, reach 400% ratio scale of your profit. No, I'm not going to talk about that. But yeah, you will have some luck to incorporate your technology, but it has to be very different. Okay, and I know that it will be different, but it has to be different and cost effective in terms of what the Pakistani companies have already been providing here. Okay, so you have to look in a more broad aspect, and I'm sure you have already been doing that, but you have to look way beyond the educational system, and you have to understand some hierarchy of Pakistan businesses and all that to get a better perspective of what you are getting into.
Great. So we have actually time for just one more question.
Sure.
And I think you can also look at the Q&A, and I was thinking maybe you could choose the one that you would like to answer.
Okay. Okay, there are 3 questions here.
Mm-hmm.
How has your institute changed because of COVID? How did you change the outlook of students parents from the skeptical traditional phase to adopting technology? Okay, I'm not going to talk about the third one or the first one. I'll just say in a very few words that my institution, not just mine, but there are many institutions in Pakistan who has, in the world basically, who has changed drastically because, the drastic change of doing work at home and managing teams at home. So it's not just about education anymore. It's about your skill as a businessman, your skill as a leader. Okay, so that is a way broad topic to discuss, but thank you so much for asking, sir, ma'am. And the second one I'm going to answer: how did you change the outlook of students and parents from the skeptic traditional phase to adopting technologies? What would you recommend for other educators facing the same problem? I actually, what I did, I struggled. I struggled a lot. I went to door and I talked to them. I heard, I know it's a very long thing to do, but the problem is, like I said, the first step is the hardest part. The second one, and then the third one, the fourth one, you go about it. But what the problem is that you need to make them, assure them that for parents, you need to assure them whatever your student is doing, he will or she will learn. Okay, that's the only problem being in the mind of parents, that if my child is using a mobile phone, will he or she learn? And you need to make sure that yes, he or she will. Okay, that's what you have to do. You have to assure them. And for the schools and educators, you need to assure them that it's very easy and cost effective. Okay, that's an insight I'm giving you. Literally, you have to make them assure, you have to make them understand that whatever the technologies that you are adapting and whatever the strategies that you will be implementing, those are very easy and cost effective. And this is not any way near funny or anything. Okay, that is actual experience of mine. Okay, that's what I faced, that's what I strategized myself, my company. Okay, so this is how you go about it. So that skeptic traditional phase became a modern techie phase, literally. Okay, and there are many schools right now who are adapting technology, and once the first school takes yours, second takes, then you can change the strategy, and then you go about it up and up. Okay, so that is how I changed it, but I'm not sure that it's going to implement everywhere, but you can at least try. Thank you so much for the questions.
Thank you, Danish, for all your answers, and thank you everyone for joining us. And yeah, look forward to next week as well. And for those who couldn't make it, we'll post this on YouTube as well. So yeah, thank you.